Welcome. Thank you for coming on to the first military podcast, the first of many more to come. But this is called Boots on Ground. And this is a podcast that is strictly for the military. And the reason we're doing this podcast is because there are so many issues and things out there that should be hit on that are not being hit on, but we want all military people to understand that we're here for them. So Boots on Ground is veterans helping veterans. Whether you're active duty, whether you're retired military, active reserve, retired reserves, we all have one thing in common, and that's the fact that we're here together and we all serve this country. Because when you look at the big picture of everything in front of whatever branch you served in, it states United States. United States Air Force, United States Marine Corps, United States Army, United States Navy, and the United States Coast Guard. That's a shout out to Jason. But we're here to talk about issues that affect the military as well as veterans, and things that should be done and could be done to help them as well as their families. I, for one, feel as though there should be no homeless veterans, but they are. So that's one thing I think that needs to be addressed. I'm your host, Leroy Carlton. I served 30 years in the military. I served 10 years in the Navy, and I served another 20 years in the Army. And I retired. I also have another comrade with me by the name of Johnny Perez. And Johnny, tell them where you served.
Boom. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Listen, a little challenge, little adversity. I'm getting onto my computer that says, I need Chrome. I don't know what's going on, so I had to hop on my other laptop. But, man, Leroy, I appreciate you. This is cool. I've never done any of this stuff, so this is awesome. Yeah, I definitely don't have as much time in service and time in grade as you do. I like the Navy part. That's my favorite part because, Marine Corps is part of the Navy. But nonetheless, yes, I did 4 years in the United States Marine Corps. And it's just, 2008 to 2012, as soon I graduated high school a little bit earlier. I went to adult school to finish my degree, got that. And I was going to transition over. I did. And then at that point, definitely wanted to make a career out of it, to be honest. But the challenge with wife and the kids, and it's just a lot going on for weekend warriors. That's awesome. I see that. They throw those reserves. It's crazy. So I always make the joke. My brother-in-law, not Jason, but Mario. So I've got two brother-in-laws, one in the Coast Guard and the other in the Marines, and he was a reservist. And I always joke around with him, man. I'm like, you know what? And he did 2 deployments to Iraq. One of them was the first initial invasion to Fallujah. I mean, this guy's like a salt dog, just a hard charger. But I'm like, I don't care what you've done. You're always a reservist. So we go back and forth on that. Yeah, 4 years in the Marine Corps. I was 7212, low altitude air defense gunner, Stinger gunner. And, man, so to your point, there's so many things. That's why I'm so fired up about this call, because to be able to have a movement, to create a movement where, and there's a lot like this out there, but what we're establishing, what we're building, what we're doing to bring back value and appreciation, and more importantly, that essence and bottom denominator of importance to people, and bring the value back to the veterans that served our country, man. This is what it's all about, man. So
I totally agree. And Nikki, I see your comment. Hey, let's talk about it. Let's make that happen.
Fact.
Because we can do that. Because when you think about it, there is no transition houses for military veterans or people coming from the military going into the civilian life. It's none. And if it is, We don't know anything about it because they don't publicize it.
Fact.
Anything that's being done for the veterans are not publicized. It's always like under the water. Like they don't want people to know that they're actually doing something for the veterans. Now think about this. And I think about this all the time. And you may agree or disagree. We all serve in some sort or another a conflict. Okay? Coming back from that conflict, it's kind of hard to get back into the routine of things because for me, my wife held down the fort while I was gone. So me coming back to disrupt everything that she had set up and had running, was kind of hard because I always feel as though, hey, all right, I'm back. I'm the man of the house. Let me take over. But you can't do that.
Fact.
You have to ease back into a transition. Sometimes it's hard for people. I wouldn't really say it was hard for me, but it was kind of hard letting go of the reins because she had already established everything. But I get it. But a transition house would be something that we can talk to soldiers, sailors, airmen, talk to them about, especially the military members that are married. Because there's some that haven't been on deployments and are getting ready to go on deployment. I have a guy that I'm talking to that's stationed in Fort Bragg. It ain't called Fort Bragg no more, but he's stationed in Fort Bragg and he's getting ready to transit to Fort Hood.
Oof.
Now, when he told me he was going to Fort Hood, I was like, man, welcome to the black hole, brother, because that's where you had it. And I said, you are definitely going to deploy out of Fort Hood. I said, just get ready. I want you to get your mindset to that point that it's going to happen. And he was like, are you serious? I said, oh yeah, brother. Anybody that goes to Fort Hood is deploying. And he got quiet, but I said, it's no need. It's no need to get quiet. This is what we do.
Fact.
This is what we do. So I get it. It's an uncomfortable conversation to have. But
you know what, Leroy, too, man, like even on that element, and because this is, and I'm glad, and obviously Nikki's saying it's kind of have those uncomfortable conversations. It's important to obviously talk about and show obviously the issues that we're facing, right? But more importantly, I'm tired of the issues being just talked about. We need to address them and provide solutions because obviously you experienced it, and this is, and again, no shade. This every time when we bring up these points, it's not to bring anything down or talk negative, but it's to talk about the reality of the scenarios that we face. Because here's the truth, especially with the transition out, right? I know the Marine Corps, and this is just my experience. People have different experiences, right? But when they found out that I wasn't re-enlisting, the level of importance and value that I had at the moment no longer was there. And instead of saying, hey, congrats, man, the civilian world, let's get you prepared for it. Let's get you, because I get it, mission ready always, right? Mm-hmm. I think the first thing that was said to me, number one, was, hey, Perez, it's hard out there. That's number one. Number two, don't tell anybody that you're getting out. I'm like, what? Right? And then I come back, I get out, I transition out. 8 months later, I found out they're going to Yuma to do some training, my old unit. So I'm like, I'm going to come in. And no joke, I had 2 senior enlisted tell me, hey, don't tell them how awesome it is, or don't talk about your outside experience. I'm like, it's all backwards, man. It's all. Now, I will commend, I live next, I'm by Luke Air Force Base. They've got that skill bridge program. They do an awesome job connecting. Hey, you're going to go for 6 months to go work somewhere so you can transition. So programs like that should be available, right? Having conversations, because we are warriors at heart, right? Warrior mindset, right. Warrior. But then when you transition to the civilian life, especially if you got in early, that's such a big piece of your life, a dominant stamp, if you will. We tend to forget what it's like to be normal, if you will. Yeah. And again, having the support and even having conversations about it You know, because a lot of it's just like, and I'm not trying to be like the soft kid, maybe because I got daughters, whatever. But it's just having the conversation. Like, hey, man, it's okay. Let's talk about it. Let's talk. You're feeling a certain way. Let's have a conversation. You're not weak for thinking that, right? But we need to have a conversation so we can reprogram or re-download new software into your brain. That's because right. It's just. But yeah, I love the transition homes. I think that's great because again, what do we deal with? We do 4 years or 8 years or 16, whatever years you do, and then you're out. It's like, all right, good luck, high five, thanks for your service. It's like, whoa, you know what I mean?
You know, I agree because, like I said, I did 30 years.
Yes, crazy.
So upon me getting ready to get out, I already knew my retirement date. So you have to go through the TAP classes.
Yep, steps and taps.
So for me, I thought the TAP class did nothing for me because I'm about to go into the civilian sector now. I'm trying to get myself out of the military mindset, even though it's kind of hard.
I mean, 30 years of your life of being a certain way, bro.
I still get up 4 o'clock in the morning every freaking day. That I just pop up. It's a natural thing. But when I went through the TAP class, and after I completed the TAP class and everything got signed off, I felt as though it was just a check the box. That's how I felt. And so when I went to one of the people that was running the TAP class, and I said, hey, can I talk to you? And they was like, sure. I said, look, I think it's some things in this TAP class you might want to change because I don't think it benefits the soldier upon getting out. But no, we already got everything set up the way that it need to be set up. I say, you're not listening to me. You know?
Listen, hey, surprise, surprise.
Yeah. You know, you hear me, but you're not listening to me.
Fact, man.
I said, and I bring up the financial thing. I said, you bring up everything, how to do a checkbook, how to balance your money and all this. I say, where was this when I came in? Y'all never talked about this
so true
at all when I came in the military. When I started getting promoted, I never got talked about money in the military until a company picks up the phone and call my unit and say, hey, Staff Sergeant Carlton didn't pay his bill. And now I'm standing in front of the man explaining why I didn't pay a bill. And now you're sending me to a budget class.
Fact.
But it had to take that before you could send me to something that had anything to do with money. And I always thought that was a pet peeve of mine with the military. If I'm constantly getting promoted and I'm making more money, why wouldn't you do something for not only Army, Marine, sailors, airmen? Why wouldn't you do something for them where you helping them with their money so when they do retire or decide to get out, they don't have a burden on them to try to find a job or I need to go to school and get a trade or whatever the case may be because they have that nest egg that'll hold them over until they find something.
100%.
And there's 100%. Nothing set up like that. TAP class is great.
Yes, and if you think about it, I always say this too. That's why I like having conversations about the finance part to the younger generation because think about this for a second. Like even in my situation, I'm 17, I enlist, right? I turn 18, I get ship off to MEPS and do all that process, but I become financially independent for the first time in my entire life. Just boom, there it is. You're getting guaranteed paycheck every 2 weeks. Here it is, right? And it doesn't surprise me, and we've all experienced it. You got those auto dealerships that are just right outside of base, right? They're going to go buy a $20,000 car that's worth 5 G's, right? And get it to them at an interest rate of 25% because they don't understand compound interest. They don't understand the rule of 72, right? Because no one's making an emphasis on it. And then your entire paycheck is going to a car that's not worth what you're paying, and you can't afford it. And then what makes matters worse, they're like, okay, now you got to get insurance for the car. and now you can't buy the insurance because it's too expensive because you're a new driver or young driver, right? And you have to get full coverage. So what is the cars? I can tell you countless times. I mean, I know names in my head right now where their nice cars sat in the barracks parking lot because they couldn't drive it because they don't have the insurance. It's unreal.
I was one of them soldiers.
I mean, think about it, man. It's and then like again, they make an emphasis on the Marine Corps. We have MCIs, right? Personal finance for Marines or leadership for Marines. And I'll be honest with you, and I'm just being real. The reason why we do them is so we can get the credit, so we can get the promotion, so we can get paid more, to get the money to spend more, right? So there's so many. And that's where obviously leadership comes into play with that. And if you understand, that's why these conversations have to happen, but for people who actually been there and done it. Now, granted, we can't help everybody, man. You know that. We got some hard-headed, stubborn people. Hey, you do what you want to do. But at least let there be some level of standard. Hey, you're 18 years old. You're on your own for the very first time in your life. Let's sit down and have a conversation. Is that going to take time? Sure. Is it going to take a lot? Absolutely. And you've got a lot of us, yourself, myself. We got a whole team of veterans that are trying to make an emphasis on that. And that's where like the frustrating part comes in. It's like, man, we have a solution to the problem. We have a solution. Allow us to work this solution out. You have to run it through this. Oh, you have to, and it's just like over and over and things never change. And I'm so tired of having the conversations and things not changing. So I know that's why we've got this channel, which is brilliant you put on, because we need to bring attention to all of it. So, man, it's crazy.
And you know what's funny? I went to Fort Lee, and I went to the commander of the post, and I asked the commander about setting up something for the soldiers that will teach them the real way about finances. And the first thing he said to me, well, we already have people that do that. And, we don't take outside solicitors. I said, excuse me?
Crazy.
I say, sir, I'm retired. So you consider me an outside solicitor because I'm no longer in? And I didn't want to cuss at the commander, but don't think it would come in my mind for a second.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you.
I'm looking at this dude. I'm like, are you serious? I said, the programs that y'all have set up on this post ain't worth a damn. And it's not helping the soldier at all. Well, I understand where you're coming from. Now, this is where just brushing me off.
Right.
I understand where you're coming from, but we already have people lined up to handle stuff like that. So I said, well, sir, let me ask you a personal question. He said, sure, shoot. I said, when the last time somebody came to you and sat down and talked to you about your finances? He had to think about it.
Crazy.
He said, actually, nobody. I said, really? But we got soldiers in here that's 18, 19, 20 years old that have no clue. This is the first time they've been on their own since leaving their parents. And this is all you got to say, we got people handling it. No, you got people checking the box.
Fact.
Is what you got.
Just like the SEPs and TAPS program, man.
Yes.
There's no real emphasis, and that's just one piece of. And Nikki, these are great comments she's making, by the way. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, that's just the finance part. Then we talk about the mental struggle and the mindset, and that's a whole nother element that frustrates me. I mean, think about how many, dude. It kills me. It kills. I've had people in my life that I've looked up to that have gone down that path. And it's tough. It's tough. And you start thinking about, and I'm not going to say his name, but the people that I'm connected with, they know him. But he was a sergeant major. I mean, poster board Marine. His speeches he gave, they gave you goosebumps. I mean, this guy had it all. And then he goes off, leaves. He's got a program that he started for the youth, and it's great, and things are awesome, and they look good, and and come to find out he committed suicide, and it's just like, man, what hope does that leave for everybody else? And these are it's so devastating because we have to carry the weight for that, man. Like, it's frustrating, and then just one stacks one on another and another, and these are all problems that weren't addressed, issues that aren't being talked about, you know. And man, that's a whole. You got finance, you got the mindset, you got so many things that need to be addressed.
I'll do you one better. Tomorrow I'm going to call Wounded Warrior. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to ask Wounded Warrior to sponsor the show. I'm going to send them a copy of this. And I'm going to ask them to sponsor the show. Now, Wounded Warrior did a lot for me. And it did a lot of people that I served with who got hit when we was in combat. And I knew, when I went there, they have this thing where they'll hire PGA golf professionals to come to certain posts and teach soldiers how to play golf. And if you complete the whole program, they'll give you a set of tailor-made custom golf clubs. That's awesome. Because you went through the whole program, which I thought was awesome. Now I met.
Listen, I don't even play golf, but that sounds great.
Oh man, I'm telling you. And I met a lot of veterans, Vietnam vets, World War II vets, and I would always hear the Vietnam veterans talking about how they're being treated, but I never understood why they was always complaining about how they was being treated. Until I got out. Now, it just so happened, thank God, say 4 or 5 days before me leaving, I said, let me go into my computer and download everything of mine to a hard drive. Now, you have to get permission to get a hard drive cooked up to your computer because they see something sticking into the USB, they're going to shut it down.
Fact.
So I got permission and I downloaded all of my stuff. Now, took it out, took it home. When I retired, August 1st, 2015, and I came in 1988, I said, let me just go on and log into my Army account just to make sure I didn't leave anything. Do you know my stuff was wiped clean?
Unreal.
Gone. Nothing. It didn't even recognize me. I'm like, so I got to thinking about everything that the Vietnam guys were saying. When we came back from that Vietnam War, we were all forgotten about. And I'm like, nah, man, nah, you guys, that was a brutal war. He said, nah, man, they totally forgot about us.
And they were mistreated by the people.
Yes.
The people that they were fighting for, right? So,
yes. That's the thing I just can't grasp. They fought for their country in a brutal war. Half of the conflicts I've been in can't compare to Vietnam.
Facts.
At all. But then to come back, missing limbs, you sick, everything just messed up. You done lost countless friends. And to come back and just be mistreated like you are, like you wasn't even in the service. You didn't fight for your country. None of that. I get it now. I get it. Even when I go to the VA hospital for my checkups or whatever, and I take Tai Chi, I'm the youngest person in there. I'm 58, but I'm the youngest person in there. All of the veterans that's in there, and they call me Young Buck when I come in, but all of them in there, Marines, Army, and Navy. I've yet to see an Air Force and I've yet to see a Coast Guard. But, you know,
those are like unicorns, man.
but every last one of them in there, I think 3 or 4 of them, Mr. Buck is the one I talk to all the time, World War II vet. And then everybody else are Vietnam vets. And they all come in there to take Tai Chi because it gives them peace of mind. So they all looking at me because I'm the youngest person in there, like, why are you doing it? I'm doing it because it's soothing and it's comfortable and I get to be around you guys. And I listen to their stories. You know, Nikki mentioned the TSP. Now, an SGLI. Oh my goodness. That's a show for another time. Don't even get me started on that crap.
Fact.
But this is what they give every single person that comes into the government. And it's garbage. You don't know that at the time because you're young, you're brand new to the military, and you don't have no idea what you're putting your money into. And then when you put your money into it, they make it hard for you to get your money back. That's the crazy thing.
Fact.
But I want to go over a list, the list that you sent me. I want to go over a list of some stuff that we're going to cover. Number 1, you mentioned combat experience and the impact on mental health. That's big. That's big.
Huge.
And I know you can relate. I for sure can relate because I deployed 5 times. 2 times to Iraq, 3 times to Afghanistan. And each time I lost a partner. People don't understand. People don't understand. Number 2, post-traumatic growth. Now, that's a topic that they don't talk about enough.
Agreed.
Enough. Wow. I know you, like you, as well as me, there's one person in the military that we looked up to. Squared away, had all his ducks in a row, and if you needed some advice, that was the person that you went to. For me, it was Lieutenant Commander Johnson. I have no idea where this man is, where he is today. I don't know if he's living. I don't know if he's dead. But that was the guy for me. And reason why that dude kept me from getting kicked out of the Navy. And the advice that dude gave me. Now, Lieutenant Commander Johnson was 6'6".
Oof, big boy.
245 pounds with not an ounce of fat on his body. That dude was all muscle.
That's what I'm talking about.
And that's very rare in the Navy.
Hey, listen, I would have to concur with you.
That's rare in the Navy. You know what I'm talking about. Now, if I were to see somebody like that in the Marine Corps, it wouldn't be no surprise to me.
Right, for sure.
You know, because that's Marine Corps is all about that fitness. But the Navy, no. You see a chief, 9 out of 10, that chief is walking around. He got a big belly. He ain't doing too much exercise. He's doing enough to pass the PT test. But that dude was solid. And make a long story short, when I got to the Navy, I was as a machinist mate. That was the job that my great recruiter put me in. He said, it's a great job because I told him I want something that can transfer to the civilian sector if I decide to get out.
Smart.
Oh, I got a great job for you. So what is this job? Oh, you're a machinist mate. You work on ship engines. I said, oh man, that's gonna be mad cool. I could do that. What he forgot to tell me was you're gonna be on the in the bottom of the boat, in the engine plant. Depending on the type of boat that you on, it may be a steam engine or it may be a push button engine. Depend on the boat that you on. Well, my first boat was the USS Pensacola LSD 38. We were the transportation for the Marine Corps.
That's what I'm talking about.
And it was a steam plant.
Crazy.
And what they did not say was, hey, you're going to be in the engine room. The engine room is 120 degrees when that engine is running. Now, they got fans blowing all over the place, but
that hot air just coming at you.
You got your coveralls on and a t-shirt, and you staying under that fan to keep cool. But when I went in that engine room, MM2 Charters was probably the coolest dude I would ever meet. But he was like, I was like, all right, man, tell me what I need to do, what I'm fixing on or whatever. He was like, fixing on? He said, dude, you ain't fixing on nothing no time. I was like, hold on, that's what I signed up for. He said, yeah, I know what you signed up for. He said, but dude, you just an E2. You ain't fixing nothing.
Fact.
He said, but here, he grabbed a rag, gave me the rag, and said, what you can do is walk around that engine. If you see any oil spots, take that rag and wipe them up. And I'm looking at this dude like, God, dude, you can't be serious. I'm not wiping no damn oil. I ain't joined the military to wipe no damn oil. He said, well, that's what you're doing.
That's exactly what's happening.
He said, if you got a problem with it, let me know. I said, hell yeah, I got a problem with it. I threw the rag on the floor and I left the engine room.
Unreal.
I went up to the mess decks, got me some drink, sat down in the mess decks and started watching TV. Now I got rode up 15 times.
Listen, I'll tell you what, the fact that you already disagreed with what you're supposed to be doing, I mean, there's some physical altercations that could possibly occur.
Yes. Yes. And,
my goodness.
I got rode up 15 times. The last time, first class Petty Officer Hamer, dude I couldn't stand, said, you're going in the engine room. You head down there now. If you're not there, we're writing you up. I said, okay. Went up to the mess decks, got me some drinks, sat down and watched TV. Now I hear my name over the intercom. Fireman Carlton, report to the aft engine room. No, I'm not going. So I went to my rack. I opened up my rack, took out my earphones, put my earphones on, and I laid back on the floor. I'm not going in an engine room. You ain't going to make me. Little did I know.
Oh, my goodness. Woo.
Now, they come to my rack. They see me laying there. They said, we told you to go to the engine room. I said, man, I'm not going to no damn engine room. It's too hot down there. He said, but that's your job. No, my job is to fix engines. You told me to wipe oil. I'm not wiping no damn oil. He said, okay, we're going to take care of this right now. Within 15 minutes, I was in captain's mass.
Man.
Uniform on, standing in front of the man.
Crazy.
Oh, Commander Needenthal. I'll never forget that.
Holy
dude.
Smokes.
Commander Needenthal.
That's I don't know if I've ever considered it. You know, it's great, even in that whole transition, man, because that's the process. You know, you graduate boot camp and, you know, I'm a sailor, I'm a Marine,
you go to school.
And you go to the school and you're still boot to somebody.
Yeah.
Right?
So,
you're like, man, are we ever going to get to that level? And then you get to the fleet, right? I mean, I remember in the fleet getting there in our service alphas, right, our pickle suits, and we're getting yelled at by this, corporals, the deployed lance corporals and the deployed corporals, whatever, and we're getting, hurry up, and they just create this environment. I'm like, man, I thought we're not in boot camp anymore. Like, I'm a Marine, and they look at you like, oh, you're a Marine, huh? Oh yeah, you're okay. You think you're a Marine? It's like, man, and then you deploy. So there's always that element of you're always boot to somebody, right? But
Oh yeah,
it's crazy.
yeah. But here's the thing: when Commander Niedenthal said, "Do you know what we do in the Navy?" And I'm saying to myself, "Yeah, you got me fucking wiping oil. That's what we do. That ain't what I thought I was going to be doing." He said, "We kill people. That's what we do. We kill people that try to do stuff to the United States." And I'm thinking back, and I'm like, well, according to my history, every time the United States got into a battle, it had nothing to do with us. So what are you talking about? He said he picked up my papers like this. He said, "You've been rolled up 15 times?" I didn't say nothing. I just stood at parade rest. I didn't say nothing. He said, "Let's hear what your chain of command got to say." Now, of course, my entire chain of command dogged me out. Oh, he's this, he's that. He get him out of here, kick him out. Master Chief Jarvis, who had to be one of the reddest rednecks you would ever want to meet, was from the back. When I say back roads of Kentucky, that's
way back there.
Oh man, he did not like me because I had to go sit with him in his office before we went to see the man. And he said, "You know what you are to me? You are a slug." Now, at that time, I didn't know what the hell a slug was, but the way he said it, it was really nasty.
Yo, you felt it. You felt it, man.
And I looked at him and I said, "What you call me? You heard what I said? You's a damn slug." That's just how he sounds. "You's a damn slug. And I'm going to say to it, you get kicked out of my Navy." I looked at him. I said, "Master Chief Josh, you can kiss my ass." Now, when I said that, being as though he was an E9, when I said that, that dude started shaking. He turned red. And I thought the dude was about to have a heart attack, but I got up and walked out. Because I said, if he hit the deck, I don't want to be there when he hit the deck. I want no parts when he hit the deck. But, you know, when it got to Lieutenant Commander Johnson, he didn't really know me. He just knew of me. He said, "I have no comment." They asked the Chang, who's the chief engineer. He said, "I have no comment."
Interesting.
So the commander said, "Let's take a 15-minute recess." So I went on the flight deck to let off some steam because I was pissed. Here come Lieutenant Commander Johnson.
Well, you guys were underway at this point? Or
Yeah.
were you boarded? Okay.
We were underway.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, we was heading to Iraq.
Gotcha.
For Desert Storm, Desert Shield.
Yeah.
And here comes Lieutenant Commander Johnson. He comes up to me and he pushes me.
Unreal.
He takes his hat off. He sits it on the flight deck. We're the only two on the flight deck. He said, "You got a problem." And I'm looking at him. He pushed me again. Now I'm saying to myself, damn, that's a big dude. I'm only gonna get one good shot in.
Well, just one, man.
Yeah.
You make it count.
I'm 20 years old. I'm about 90 pounds soaking wet.
I hear that.
I said, I'm only gonna get one good shot in on this dude. And he pushed me again. He said, "If you got anything you want to get off your damn chest," he said, "let's get it off right now." I'm just looking at him. I ain't saying nothing. I'm just looking at him. I'm like, dude, I don't want to tangle with this dude. He said, "That's what I thought. You's a little punk." He picked his hat back up, put his hat back on. He said, "They were like nothing more than to kick you out of the military. But you're too stupid to realize that." He said, "But I'm going to give you some advice. He said, if you want to beat them at their own game, he said, here's what you need to do. Now, while he's saying, he's doing my head like this. He said, read the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Read a page every day. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care where you at. You read a page of it every day. After you read a page of that, then you go read a page of the Navy regulations. And I'm just looking at him. He said, if you learn those 2 books, no one can touch you in the military. Then he shoved my head again.
Yeah, listen, he's trying to get all the shoving in before you start reading it. Yeah.
He said, wake the hell up. And he walked off. Now, when we went back to Captain's Mast and everything was over, I never saw Lieutenant Commander Johnson ever again. But see, at that point changed my entire military career.
Crazy.
I wish today I could tell him what he did and to let him know that I followed what he said. And then I went to the Army and I did the exact same thing. I kept reading a page of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and I started reading the Army regulations. It got me through 30 years.
Crazy.
So if you were an NCO, you know, at the time I came into the Army, I was a specialist, which is just an E4. But a specialist sound more nice than a 3rd class petty officer. Sound more important, you know. But to tell him that he was the impact that changed my military career, because believe me, I was tested a lot. And as I started going up in rank, I started looking at the soldiers under me different, because I was like, you know what? I need to train these soldiers as if Lieutenant Commander Johnson is looking at me train these guys.
Right.
What would he want me to do with these guys? I got like 300 soldiers under me. NCOs on down. How would he want me to train these guys? So I do what no NCO did for me. I treat every last one of them with the utmost respect. And then in the same token, they give me back that respect. So now, if I say to a soldier, hey, soldier, come here for a second. I need you to do this. Make that happen as quick as you can and let me know when you're done. Boom, they gone. No questions asked. And everybody's trying to figure out why these soldiers listening to Sergeant Carlton. But I just told that soldier the same thing and I got a whole bunch of flack.
Crazy.
So when you look at the, and number 3, transitioning to civilian life. Why don't we talk about that enough? Like you said, they said, don't talk about you getting ready to get out. Don't say nothing about what you're doing or what you've done. Because we got to keep that mindset, keep them brainwashed. Because when I looked at the military for what it was, my whole mindset switched. I need to make the military work for me and not work for the military.
Back.
So that's another thing. Moral and ethical dilemmas in the military. I'm sure you could speak on that.
But listen, there is, and just to hit on your point, but there are, again, what's the reason that we communicate this, right? Because a lot of this, man, again, going in, you go in, you get the stamp in your brain, and you're programmed to think at a very young age a certain way. So as we transition out, again, we struggle with that. But I mean, here's what I'll say to that specifically, the last point you just hit. You know, and this is not everybody. Again, I want to give credit to the ones that stayed in, that are phenomenal leaders. They are in a position, but I think more importantly, let me take that back. I know for a fact some of the best leaders that I've had did a lot of self-development. Like they're reading books. They're figuring out how the leadership. I remember I had 2 officers specifically that, man, I just ultimate mad respect forever. They were lieutenants. Lieutenant DeLuca, and then Lieutenant Shank. Lieutenant Shank specifically, we got back from a deployment, and I'm a sergeant at the time. We get back from and we're given a class on patrol and house insertions and all this stuff. And what does he do? He knows we're giving this class. He's never deployed. He's a lieutenant. He's in charge, right? He's my platoon commander. He sits in the back of the classroom with a notebook, and he's taking notes on everything that we communicated, everything that we're talking about, what we did, how we do it, all this stuff. At the end of the class, all the questions that he had as far as what he was taught in training or what we're taught in training and the real deal, hey, Perez, Sergeant Perez. He always called me by my name, never just Perez, right? So I'm like, man, just even that, like, it's awesome, And he didn't have to, but he's like, hey, you mentioned, you went from point A to point B. How come you did it that way instead of this way? And because we're taught different. And I explained to him, and he was open to it. I mean, so, and then you get the officers or the people in charge that, again, they would get no respect or no love outside of outside of the military sector. So they stay in, put a little weight on their collar, and then that's that. Yep. Right. And you can very much so distinguish the difference between the two. And I was a PFC at the time, and I had a sergeant come in, and obviously when you give the greeting of the day in the Marine Corps, you stand up, give the proper greeting of the day, either way, all that good stuff, but he'd come around, and he was the comm sergeant. He wasn't in our MOS, but he was the comm attachment to us, comm unit. Long story short, and I don't remember his name, it's so bad, but he'd come in every morning, and he was there for a brief moment, come in every morning and shake everyone's hand. Hey, good morning, Marine. Hey, good morning, Marine. Hey, sit down, relax, man. It's okay. Don't worry. And I'm like, man, it's crazy. And then you got the corporals and the lance coolies that think, I'm a little salt dog, so I can do. And I'll be honest with you, like, I kind of fell into that trap a little bit too. You treat people a certain way, and you got to kind of have to go with the crowd and make you do stupid stuff, and it's a rites of passage and all that. But if I could do things differently, having the abundance mindset, the optimistic mindset, and how important that is, and then all the downtime that we had, because there is a lot of moral and ethical issues that we face, and especially, we were an all-male unit because we were a combat unit, and then we got augmented, and some female Marines came into that, and there's that whole. Yeah. Listen, I've never seen so many staff NCOs be so friendly to junior enlisted. It's unreal. So my point being, there's a lot that needs to be fixed, and there has to be and should be required self-development and required there should be leaders in positions to emphasize on how important it is to build the mind and to build the brain, and the fact that your fellow sailors or soldiers or Marines or airmen depend on your ability to communicate effectively and to look out for them. Because really that's your first line of team and people that you should be caring about. As an NCO, you got to be caring about the people below you. You have to. Yeah, you check them when things are not rocking and rolling, but at the same time, like, they need to be able to count on you to be behind them on any adversity or challenge that they face, right? And then even to the first point you talked about, which is the combat experiences. I mean, it's kind of tough, man, because you hear a lot of people too, a lot of influencers, if you will, and military vets, and be tough and go through it, and you gotta work it out, and you do. Yeah, you have to get through it, but everybody handles it differently, man. Even my experience out in Afghanistan, it's just, I remember when we first got there, it was like every other day we were getting IDF. Every other day, just imagine being in a deep sleep, and all of a sudden the ground shaking, and and then you throw your gear on and getting under a bunker and sitting there, and then it's funny and it's kind of sick and twisted. But after a while, you start to make light and jokes of it, But I can't tell you there's nothing worse than waking up to a sound like that, and then realizing, man, that wasn't too far from where I was at. And it's getting closer every time, and it's today my day. And then you start, it's just, all of that can be so detrimental to your brain and to the way you live your life. And it's so, and if not properly dealt with, kind of like a game, that's exactly right. But it's just, and it changes your entire DNA. And it's kind of hard sometimes too, because, just change it. It doesn't work like that all the time. You can't just change things.
Right.
You have to take time, and you have to communicate with people. And it's almost, and I have a book. It's called Warrior's Ethos. It's a fantastic book, and it talks about all the levels of war, from the Roman Empire to the Japanese samurai, and the mentality and the mindset that they had to have. I mean, it's just, there's so many components to it. And that's why, again, having these conversations, and we got to desensitize is exactly right. Nikki, that's perfect. And that's why, like, God, man, like I said, if we can't go back and change the things that we did, however, we could try to make a positive impact on the current situation, on everybody now, to emphasize that leadership is important. Caring about your people is important. And it's not about treating them like crap. It's about giving them the respect, because we're humans, and we're males and females, right? We're men and women and we all signed the same line. We all started at the same spot. So there's so many elements to it, man. And it's just, it's tough.
I get it. So we have the impact of the military service on relationships, because as you know, the military is number one when it comes to divorce. Identity and self-discovery, advocacy and support for fellow veterans, finding meaning and purpose behind the military, coping with loss and grief, reintegration challenges, that's big,
Huge.
Military culture and traditions, the impact of war on communities, mental health and stigma, leadership lessons learned in the military, diversity and inclusion in the military, humanitarian missions and service, reflection on service and sacrifice. So those are just some of the topics that we definitely want to hit on.
And I think too, with those, like, we take 2 at a time or 3 at a time, and we dive deep, man, and hear the feedback of because we're all dealing with the same stuff. But here's what I will say, and this is why, even with those points, we talk about them, we bring it, but how do we overcome them, right? And I'll be real, I'd be lying to you if I say every single day I don't deal with that stuff. Dude, there are demons that I fight in my brain, especially when I'm by myself. And I'm not trying to make this about me, but I can speak on my experience, and I'm sure you can relate to the same thing. But man, I'm just sitting in my thoughts. I'm writing high, and all of a sudden, bam, I hit it down, and my whole life is affected. And you try to, again, how do you overcome that? What tools can you implement? What things can you do to quickly overcome the challenges that you're facing? And that's why, even like on my social media, I put out videos and stuff like that. And a lot of times people get it mistaken and misunderstood, like, oh, you're trying to be a motivator or a motivational speaker, or you try to inspire and influence people. But here's the truth, bro. Here's the 100% truth. I make those videos, I hit those topics for reminders for me. So, because when I pick up my phone, and it's weird, and I tell my wife, I joke around with my wife, I'm like, man, I fire myself up. I'm like, look, listen to what I'm saying, because I could say something, and I'm going through it at the moment, and then I try to process it. I'm like, okay, let me and I'm creating a book, if you will, where I could reflect back and say, okay, what did I say when I talked about when I was dealing with stress and I was getting defeated in the mind? Like, what did I say? But again, we need to constantly remind ourselves every single day and associate ourselves with like-minded people. So again, to hit those points is one thing. To talk about the experience through it is another thing. But the most important is, what tools can we implement immediately to start seeing those positive changes in our lives? Because that's what we need.
I totally agree.
Because so as we go through it, that's where, like, I'm excited for this, because, and people, I want to see the feedback, right? Nikki's been dropping bombs on here, which is great, but I want to see the feedback and be able to hear others and how are they overcoming their challenges and helping, because we need to make it known, and it needs to be accessible so that people can, and veterans can listen in and be like, holy smokes, like I didn't think about it that way. I didn't know that could be done. You know what I mean?
You know, you're absolutely right, because on my shelf, I have the journals that I kept the entire time I was deployed. I wrote in that journal every day.
That's awesome.
You know, and it was one incident where my team was leaving Taji and we was going to Baghdad. We was driving to Baghdad. But as we came out of Taji, a civilian truck hit an ID. So it came over radio, hey, turn your convoy around. Now, we had 5 or 6 Marine gun trucks that was, you know, riding around the convoy to protect us. But when we turned around to go back, another civilian hit another ID. So they were expecting us to come. So then it was in the paper the next day, and they showed the frame of the trucks that blew up. Nobody survived. You just see the frame of the truck.
Unreal.
And I'm like, wow. So I cut that picture out and I stuck it in my journal. Because, you know, when you sit back and you think about all of that stuff, man, and then to lose a partner. I had a partner that hit an IED. He was on a convoy and his Hummer hit an IED. Dead on impact. Everybody that was in it. And I'm like, damn. And it's so sad because, and special shout outs to Lieutenant Walsh, who was another person we lost. And he was walking to the laundromat to get his clothes with a soldier. And here it go. The alarm goes off and we got incoming. And he saw it because it was headed right to where they were. He grabbed the soldier and dived, you know, went to dive into, like it was like a little dug hole on the side of the road. But when it hit, he caught all the shrapnel. But the soldier he grabbed was unharmed.
Crazy.
So special shout out to Lieutenant Walsh and his family, because it's funny. I was just talking to the dude like 2-3 hours before that happened. He was asking me to explain to him how to get ammunition for his platoon. And I was like, well, how much time you got? He said, well, you know, if you could just show me a few things, I got to run to the laundromat. And I wish I had kept him there longer.
I know. How much would that have changed the whole dynamic of everything?
Exactly. The man.
We carry that weight, unfortunately, and we feel like we have some type of control, right? Or we think we have control, and then it does. And
you don't.
You don't, man.
And he was so young, man. He had just got married, just had his first kid. This was his first deployment, lieutenant. And it's just, wow. What can you do? But see, that's the type of stuff that we need to talk about, and we need to come up with solutions to help people that still have all that stuff right here.
Fact.
And trying to deal with it on a constant basis. Nikki, I agree with you. That transition house sounds like a great idea. We definitely need to talk about that and see if we can kind of implement that in some kind of way. I'm going to definitely make some calls, talk to some people, and see if we can't make that happen. Because I think that would be a great benefit to anybody that's getting out of the military or joining the military. You know, you come to the transition house before you go in. So you already have the mindset of what to expect going in. We can't give you all of the 100% experiences you're going to go through, because everybody's going to go through something different. But if we can make it easier for you to understand, that would be totally awesome. But this is just the first of many shows on Boots
Exactly.
on Ground. And I'd like to thank you, Nikki, for being on, and anybody else that might have hopped on this call, because the goal is to make things better for the veterans and make things better for active duty military, whatever branch you may be in. That is the ultimate goal.
And Leroy, coming together and empowering other veterans and other service members that are still currently in, and encouraging them to realize that, because again, you said the Vietnam era, people were forgotten about. There's nothing more, in my opinion, there's nothing more, devastating than somebody who served their country, felt they were making a difference, then being completely forgotten about, overlooked, undervalued, underappreciated.
Oh yeah.
And so we need to create, and that's what the intention, creating an environment where we can empower other veterans to do exactly that, and show them, right? And here's the sad truth, man. This is what kills me. We're not going to be able to help everybody, because
right.
they have to work on it themselves. However, if we can give them a start, a platform, and a position to transition in a positive way, then that's a start, man. That's a start.
I totally agree. I totally agree. So with that being said, again, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for getting on the call. We look forward to doing the next show where we're going to hit on the topic. And the first topic we're going to hit on is going to be combat experiences and the impact of mental health. That will be the first topic. So if you know anybody that's in the military, or you know any veterans, spread the word about Boots on Ground, veterans helping veterans, because we want everybody to get on here, and we want this podcast to make an impact on anybody that served their country in any way that we can help them. And we want to hear your views. If you got questions or you got certain topics you want us to tackle, let's talk about it. This is a safe space. This is a safe space. I've been through it. Johnny's been through it. And I'm sure quite a few of y'all been through it as well. And like I said, I listened to the Vietnam veterans and the World War II vets, and I listened to their stories, and they're heartfelt, because some of these people are totally forgotten about, and it shouldn't be that way, because the U.S. wouldn't be what it is if it was not for the military.
That's fact.
Yeah.
I think somewhere along the lines, we tend to forget about that. And man, even the bills that are being signed into place today, and all the money being sent elsewhere, and there's so many. Here's what I'll say. I'm excited for what this is going to do. I know you've got connections. I've got connections. And we can bring on some guests that have been in this space professionally. I just built a relationship with an amazing lady who helps SEALs and all the special. So inviting her to come on here and address things. Man, we want to be able to bring value, right? And then empower you to go out there and have an opportunity to make things better for you. And it's just, man, I'm excited. And then the programs we talked about, that the VA deal that we got going on happening. Oh man, there's so much movement, man. It should be hopefully live May 1st. So we'll bring that and talk about that, because that's going to be we got to be the resource, man.
You're right.
I think Leroy and I can agree on this, right? We know what we know. We know what we don't know. We know who knows what we don't know, and that's all we need to know. And we just plug it in. We want to be the spot. Let's be the spot that has the answers, or at least can point you in the right direction on where to go to find the right answers for yourself to make your situation, your life better. And man, I'm excited. And Leroy, this is a fantastic idea. And when we were in Atlanta, I was like, when we were outside the Vantage building, the headquarters, I'm like, Oh man, he's got it. This is great. This is great. So I'm excited for it, brother. I'm excited.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely get together and talk about the next show.
Fact.
And for all of you that watch the show, I'm going to set up a separate page just for Boots on Ground, where you can go there and watch the show and all the shows that we do hereafter. We're going to put some information up that you can download and take in. So this is just the first stepping stone of many things to come.
Fact.
So thank every last one of you for getting on a call. Nikki, thank you. Definitely thank you for your comments. Because
yeah, man, she's on fire. Listen,
yeah,
she's dropping all those good nuggets, man.
I know you know all too well how it is in the military. So I know you experienced it too. So thank you so much for all your comments. It's been awesome. And until next time, people, thank you. God bless. And we'll see you on the next show.
Awesome. Awesome. Looking forward to it, my brother. Looking forward to everybody. Leroy, thank you again, bud. And let's get on to the next one, baby.
Oh, yeah. Let's make it happen.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you.
All right.